Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out on another investigation. I've returned to Duncton. This is part of a series of videos looking at Duncton in West Sussex and its history. You may remember we had a look at St Mary's Church, which is in the south of Duncton, just at the foot of Duncton Hill. Well, today I've moved up to the newer church, the Holy Trinity, because I'm particularly interested in the bell that moved from St Mary's up here to Holy Trinity, the oldest working bell in the country. You may remember in the previous video that St Mary's had started to crumble, decay, and eventually was pulled down, and a new church was constructed, but constructed about half a mile northwards. But why? Well, I'm now joined by Ruth Aitchison, and you're the Churchwarden.
Yes,
hello,
I'm
Ruth.
the Churchwarden. Hi there. Hi.
Now, thank you very much for agreeing to show
pleasure.
me round.
Pleasure.
This is the new church. St Mary's is about a mile or so away.
It's at the south end of the village, and that's where the church was originally and stood for about 800 or 900 years. And in 1866, this church was built here. The St Mary's had fallen into complete disrepair and was beyond rebuilding. And it was decided, as most of the activity then had moved to this part of the village, that this would be a more suitable site to build the new church.
Now, you've been a churchwarden here for how long?
I've been involved with the church probably for the last 15-20 years, but I've only actually been a churchwarden for about a year.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, quite a lot of the congregation who are no longer with us anymore, who were churchwardens for a while, so it's now trying to find younger people to get more involved. And we had one other churchwarden who did the job on her own for about 3 years, so I thought it was time that she had a hand, and I joined about a year ago.
It's a very splendid looking church, very proud church, Victorian church, as we said just now.
Every 5 years we have to have a quinquennial report inspection.
Gosh.
Which basically is done by an architect. That the diocese have a list of approved architects who can do this work, and every 5 years they go around the whole building. It's basically like a survey, working out what works need to be done on the roof, the tower, basically the fabric of the building. And we have found that quite a lot needs to be done, and therefore we're going to have to do quite a bit of fundraising.
Oh golly.
We might be able to get some grants and lottery funding for it, which we'll need to apply for, but being in a small rural community, fundraising is, an issue that
yes.
It sort of needs to be addressed, and obviously is a hard thing to do.
So is there any specific things that need doing?
There's quite a lot of work on the roof. Luckily, we haven't got to replace the roof, which was our biggest fear, because that would have been a huge undertaking and very, very costly. Now,
I know that you have in your graveyard, obviously, lots of local people, but there's one specific person who's here who became a bit of a national figure and a bit of a hero, particularly for the women's movement. I'm just going to turn around so we can see behind us. Can you tell me who this is?
This lady is called Florence Gertrude de Fonblanque, who was a resident in Duncton, and she was really the originator and leader of the women's suffrage march from Edinburgh to London. But as you pointed out correctly, she actually did it, she was going to do it from London to Edinburgh, but in the end she did it from Edinburgh to London.
Yes. There is a link between St Mary's and Holy Trinity up here, and that link is that although St Mary's disappeared, there was one thing that came from her and is still in use today, and in fact is
the bell.
The bell.
The bell. Yes.
And I believe that John Robyns is waiting inside the church.
He is, and he can tell you a lot about it and its history.
Let's go and see if John is inside. Come through the door, and I believe he is waiting here. Hello, John.
Hello, Richard.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, yes, likewise, absolutely.
So you're John Robyns.
Yes, that's right.
And you rung the bell here.
Yes, I've done that from when I was about 8 years old. I expect.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And your family, John, I'm just going to come round this side. Your family have been involved with the church for a long time.
Yeah, for a very long time. They were certainly here at the time this church was built, and I'm sure that they were worshippers up at the old St Mary's Church previously to that. Because I know it's my mum's family that are from the village here, and I know that they're there because they're in my present house in 1831. So they've been around for a long time.
Gosh, so you're well rooted here.
Yeah, I guess I am really.
And Iris is your mother.
Yes.
And she's no longer with us. I gather.
She died in 2009.
Oh, right, okay. But she used to play the organ here.
She did.
And that's down this end. Shall we go and have a quick look?
Let's go and have a look. I'm afraid I can't give a demonstration.
You never learned?
No, I didn't.
No, fair enough.
I did. So when she got so old, she had to pack up doing it when she was 88 or something, 87.
Wow.
I said to her, do you think perhaps I ought to learn that I can carry on with it? And she said, well, she said, to be honest, she said, you're 50-something now. She said, if you haven't had any inclination to learn now, you're not going to get very far with it. And I think she was probably right. Yeah.
Well, I think they're quite complicated
well, I believe so,
yeah. But,
yes, I believe so.
It must have made a lovely sound.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it did. I mean, we could hear it. We could hear her playing in the church from indoors in the house, and sometimes singing as well.
Oh, amazing! But the bell is what I'm particularly interested in because it links St Mary's, which is a little bit down the road.
Yeah.
And as we already mentioned, had now been had crumbled and been pulled down. But it was salvaged and brought here. There's a secret, I can see there's a little secret recess here behind the organ, which is a bit of a tight fit.
Good job none of us are very fat.
Yes, I'm trying to get through here.
You can see there's the rope for ringing the bell.
Oh, yes.
And we'll go up the ladder now and have a look and see, and have a look at the bell itself.
Fantastic, I will follow you.
There's another handhold up there, and I suggest you put your hand over and grab hold of that ladder.
Oh, right. Not so easy when you're holding a camera. I'll get you to hold that.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, I see, yeah. Fantastic.
Okay.
Yep.
You can see the bell up above us here.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Wow.
You can see, just looking at it, it's very ancient. When it was taken away and refurbished, they did it very sympathetically, so it still looks ancient. But all the supporting work and the mechanism for tolling it has been made new from materials sympathetic to its age, so it's an exact reproduction, really.
Do you know what it's made from?
The bell itself is made from bronze.
Is it bronze? Oh, okay.
And the quadrant wheel that rings it, I believe, is made from elm.
Oh, right.
I believe so.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, so in a moment we'll go downstairs again, and you'll grab the Sally and give it a good, a reasonable, a reasonable pull. Yeah. I've come downstairs. That was a bit more hairy coming down than going up, because it's quite a steep old ladder. Yeah. And so now you've got the Sally over here, but you've just told me there's a little wire in your hand. Just explain that again.
Well, the bell is rung separately by the clock with quite a different clapper to that does the internal clapper that does when one tolls it. So it makes a much harsher sound, particularly when the clock strikes it itself, because it lifts it up and it goes down with a huge crash. But I'll let it go. See,
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So that's the clock clapper on the outside.
Yeah. And the inside one is a gentler sound.
Yes. Everyone's now looking at their watches and thinking, what time is this?
I don't think we're going to get inundated with people rushing up the road.
No. But I mean, when you think back to the days of the war, the Second World War, people were ringing the bell if the invasion was on.
Yeah, so I believe. I mean, I wasn't around at the time personally, but yes, I believe that is the case.
Well, listen, John, it's been an absolute privilege to come and meet you, learn a bit about your family and your connection with the church, and more importantly, to meet the bell, the oldest working bell in the country. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
It's been wonderful. What a beautiful sound. The oldest working bell in England. Terrific. My thanks to John and to Ruth for showing me around the church. Well, that's it for now. There'll be more from Duncton in due course. So in the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, goodbye.